Our hero stared dejectedly at the computer screen. Donations in the game were so slow that he could grow old, get married 3 times and still wait for his account to be replenished. But fuck it. He decided to take down the hidden boss anyway. Ah, yes. The hero's name is Jiang Chen, a typical rich heir from the planet Lansing. He has an apartment, a girlfriend, parents in the best worlds, and a couple thousand small goals on his account. Everything seems fine if it weren't for a little problem, a fatal disease, and no, you can't treat it even for money. 3 months of life, and the timer is ticking. As Jiang Chen galloped through his list of earthly desires, there was only one single goal left, to complete the toughest achievement in the game of fantasy world, God abode that others could only dream of. And he pumped so much money into the game that any donator junkie would be jealous. Millions of coins, sleepless nights, nervous breakdowns, the whole package. But damn it, he did it. The next morning, his sister brought breakfast, stopping by to see if he'd spliced into the chair. "You've been playing all night?" she asked reproachfully. He, of course, began to deny it. But who was he lying to? His sister instantly recognized the falsity and told him to take care of his health before he fell to pieces. And at this beautiful moment, our hero suddenly felt as if he had been run over by a bus. His consciousness swam, and the world around him seemed to fall apart. The fantasy world flashed before his eyes. Castles, monsters, magical cities, the complete package for an escape from reality. When he woke up, he realized 2 things. His body felt heavy, and there was some tiny blonde sitting on his chest. This energetic little thing immediately declared him a hero who urgently needed to save the continent of II. The girl's voice sounded suspiciously familiar to Jiang Chen, and it was also annoyingly sonorous. Holding back the urge to ask if he was late for the circus audition, he inquired, "Who are you anyway?" The blonde dramatically stated that she and he had been through a lot together. Then it finally hit him. This whole place was one and the same as his favorite game, Phantasmia. And that's the enhancement merchant he leaked a fortune to. Genius. Now there's a home delivery glitch. The girl slapped him hard to dispel any last doubts. The pain, the smell, it was all painfully real. No, it wasn't a glitch. He was really on his game. Just then, some chipper type burst into the room and yelled at the whole house for Jiang Chen to get out. The man smugly announced that he would take his sister whether anyone liked it or not. Romance of the I'll give it up for cattle level. The sister said that her brother was seriously ill and that it would be better for the imposter to find something easier to do, such as collecting pebbles. She whispered to her brother to rest, promising to deal with the intrusive suitor herself. Zanchenki stared in shock at what was happening, wondering in the back of his mind, what the hell is Lulu doing here? My sister explained cheerfully. The house was hers. She lived here, and in general, she had every right. Well, theoretically, something was wrong here, and the hero could feel it in his skin. He suddenly remembered that this Shen Wanhao was also from Lansing. Yes, from his homeworld, and had been lusting after his sister like a fly to jam back then. To make things clearer, a petty wind-up named Fufu decided to take the floor. She explained that on Lansing, Jingqing was supposed to quietly die, but fate, or rather the system of the game, Phantasmia, God's abode, decided to give him a second chance. They rewarded him with the opportunity to live another life. But inside the game, and here's an important point, they had a system of donation refunds. The more money you pour in, the more bonuses you get. Our guy, of course, did not spare the money. In the end, poured so much that the energy of return literally burned his physical body. Well done. It's like an investment in the afterlife. When the young man asked in a daze if he had destroyed himself with donations, Fufu shamelessly confirmed it. But she said that it wasn't that bad because she had something interesting in store for him. While they were discussing, Shen Wanhao suddenly jumped into the conversation like a pain in the fingernail. He said that he wanted to make Jianglu his woman. And our hero, they say, has 2 options. Either he voluntarily agrees, or the entire Jiang family will be cut out, and the girl will still be in his clutches. It's a great choice, almost like, would you like coffee or tea with poison? Fortunately, my sister couldn't stand it and, like a cultured lady, sent this clown away, politely, but to the point. Meanwhile, our guy was sitting there completely bewildered. He didn't understand at all at what stage of the nightmare he woke up. And while he was silent, Shen Wanhao decided that since silence was a sign of agreement, he could already choose for the 2 of them. But then our hero, still maintaining his zen, lazily asked, "Are you serious? Can't you see that I'm not in the mood at all?" And the next second, bam, a massive shockwave threw Shen across the courtyard. Beautiful, epic, and frankly well-deserved. Shen was in shock, trying to figure out why his cool punch didn't work at all. The hero calmly explained, "Look, Shen Wanhao, judging by your levels, you're about the level of a village idiot. And the armor I was given by this little one here," he nodded at Fufu, "can withstand anything below the 3rd rank. So I'm sorry, but you didn't even scratch it." Shen Wanhao was seething with rage. How dare Zhongchen fight back? Apparently, the guy didn't understand very well who he had raised his hand against. Without thinking long, Shen called for his personal gang to beat up the insolent man. And, yes, the man wasn't kidding. He was really going to slaughter the entire Zhong clan. Enjoy your meal, as they say. But our hero didn't care. He didn't care at all. NPCs or living people, there was no difference for him. He chopped them up one by one, turning them into meat salad with an icy calmness. And it was at that moment that everyone finally saw what a real donation boss was capable of. When the last clown had fallen, the door swung open with a clatter. On the threshold arose a woman in a body like this, 2 strengths and 3 cares per square meter. It was Auntie Meng. Without further ado, she ordered the bodies removed and buried in the backyard just like at the morning office meeting. Throw out the trash. Don't forget to fertilize the garden. Our young man wasn't even surprised. He expected to see anyone, but it was still strange to see Auntie Meng in this mess. He gently inquired, "Are you all right?" The aunt sighed heavily and explained. They had been lured out by a fake attack, and she and Miss Jiang had almost fallen into a trap. The poor girl was so worried that she clung to the guy with an iron grip, depriving him of his last bit of air, a hug so that there are more bruises than feelings level of care. Meanwhile, my sister wasted no time in informing me that the Shen clan had suffered serious losses and they would definitely not let this matter go unanswered. It's only logical that when your gangster PR is damaged, you have to restore your reputation somehow. Auntie Meng confirmed it. If we surrender now, we'll be eaten without salt. I asked her a question right off the bat. Well, what are you capable of? The young man thought for a second. In this game, there were stages of development, beginner, pro, elite, master, and so on. And each new rank increased the strength not twice, but 10 times or even 100 times. For example, the same Shen Wenhao was a second-ranked pro, that is at the level of village eatery brawler, and himself. The hero resolutely closed his eyes and gave out, "Yeah, lower than a rookie." There was such a silence that you could hear a cockroach sneeze in the next room. Auntie Meng was shocked. How can you be lower than a rookie? Is this negative evolution? Quickly gathering her thoughts into a pile, she ordered to pack. It was urgent to leave with the young master. In the meantime, she would cover Jiang's house and organize a mini festival of traps and surprises for the enemies. At least no one will find them for a while, and then we'll see. The young man confidently said, "Auntie Meng, don't worry. Yes, I'm still at the beginner level, but with my combat skills and equipment, I can take down 2 or 3 ranked opponents like Skittles." And he added, as if in between, "By the way, I have something for you." Auntie Meng looked at the strange book and asked skeptically, "What kind of masterpiece is this?" After a couple of seconds, she yawned as if the book was trying to put her to sleep with just an aura of boredom. In the meantime, her sister had an idea. Since the Jiang clan was in danger, she couldn't just sit back and do nothing. It was time to take fate into our own hands and act. But then she looked in the book, and bang, she saw a bunch of naked girls on the very first pages. Her sister's face turned as red as a tomato in July. The cover bore the inscription "Seduction Techniques from Phantasmic." Of course was typical Donator survival manual. Our hero, as a caring brother, inwardly cringed. He'd rather Lulu didn't even leaf through such a thing. But given the circumstances, he reluctantly said, "You don't have to learn everything. Just pick the things that will help you survive. Priorities, you know." Auntie Meng, meanwhile, quickly got the hang of it. "Young master," she said, "I tried the breathing technique in this book. And you know what? One breath using this technique had more effect than all my training for the day." The hero only grinned to himself. Well, yes, the system Phantasmia never slips nonsense. Tested on himself. However, his enthusiasm quickly waned. Upon opening the second chapter, he discovered that it was blocked without further explanation. And then Fufu jumped out of the blue, sat on his back, and shiningly declared, "Foolish brother. You'll get the rest when you level up." The young man sighed heavily, of course. Even in the new world, it's classic. First the work, then the reward. The action moves to Chunyun Lake. Our hero was sitting with a rod like a real loser fisherman, armed with a bag of bait and a lot of optimism. However, he quickly realized that he was not just fishing for redfish. He asked Fufu with the look of someone who already regretted his life, "Are you out of your mind? I'm a rookie with no rank. Why do I need the liver of a golden-scaled king to level up?" Fufu only waved her hands. "Well, do you want to upgrade 10 ranks at once? Then bear with it." And you know what? There was logic in what she said. A sick twisted logic, but logic. Fortunately, our young man was battle-hardened. In the real world, he had been droning so hard that any grandmother on the bench would have gasped with respect. So he knew what to do. First, he had to pour out the usual bait, feed the fish to the brim, and then throw in the special bait. The plan worked. A vortex appeared in the water where the hook was. The fish were clearly interested. The young man grabbed the rod. "That's it, king. Get out of there, a jerk." Surprise. Instead of a pudgy fish on the hook, there was a mermaid, white-haired, shiny, and obscenely beautiful. The hero darted his eyes around and only managed to exhale dazedly. "Who are you anyway?" A mermaid with impressive dignity introduced herself as Senna. She clapped her eyes gratefully, thanking him for saving her, but our young man immediately put a damper on her enthusiasm. "I was just fishing, actually." Senna understood, but she still insisted. If it wasn't for Jiang Chen's bait, it would have rotted at the bottom of Lake Chuanyuan. So while he thought he was just wasting bait, he had accidentally conducted a rescue operation. Jiang Chen frowned. "Wait, did you just eat my bait?" And then it hit him. He didn't remember such an event in the game. Another reality bug. Fufu, as always, jumped up just in time to call him her favorite foolish brother. He doesn't know anything at all. His understanding of this world is the tip of the iceberg on the planet of naivety. But back to Sina. Since his bait is her salvation, he's decided to demand compensation. "So will you give me the bait back, or will you help me catch the golden scaly king?" The girl bowed sweetly and replied with a guilty look. "I'm sorry, but the bait is already, well, in my stomach, and I'm not going back to the lake. It's dangerous." But smiling playfully, she vowed that she would be sure to repay his kindness someday. The young man only rolled his eyes. "Oh, classic. I'll definitely repay you in the future." "Okay, don't worry about it. Go on, get out of here." But his indifference must have caught the mermaid's eye. Something twitched in her heart, and Senna decided to return the favor with an old-fashioned kiss. She slowly approached. The young man instantly blushed to the tips of his ears. At the last moment, he tensed up and hissed, "Hey, hey, hey, hey. You ate the bait. Now you're going to eat me." Senna ignored his distress and touched her lips gently to his cheek. It turned out to be more than just a gesture of affection. She tagged his body so she could find him easily, and her requests didn't end there. As it turned out, it wasn't a good idea to go out on land wearing nothing. Sina politely asked for something to cover her strategic beauty supplies. Jiang Chen stammered and pulled out some old set of clothes from his inventory. As a result, the mermaid flaunted her school uniform, looking like she had just escaped from a musical rehearsal. Before diving back into the lake, Sina approached once more and asked him to wait. The hero only grinned wryly. "What now, do I have to turn around every time I see you jump out of the bushes?" And here she is back in the water, even though she was just yelling about how deadly it was. Mermaid logic, don't look for it. The young man sighed heavily. Now he had to make special bait again to catch the gold chess king. It was a nice vacation. Meanwhile, nearby in the rocky gorges, the sun shone brightly, but the idyll quickly came to an end. A huge black wolf monster stood in front of the two travelers, its growl making the hair on their legs stand on end. The girl asked her uncle in a panic, "What should we do?" Her uncle looked at her sternly and barked, "Run." He himself remained standing, knowing full well that this was the end. A third-ranked wolf in these parts was at least a regional emergency, and he himself only thought, "North Ridge," they said. "A safe place," they said. Jiang Chen appeared on top of the cliff, lazily looking at the not-so-small dog below. The strangers below almost dropped their eyes in surprise, but the young man was interested in the main question. "If you tame this monster, will it normally guard the house?" "But about that later, we should go down first," Uncle thought with a sinking heart. "Can this guy really fly? 4th rank or something? Then they're saved." But then the demon wolf grinned so viciously that it was clear that nothing good could come of it. The wolf howled, emitting a magical wave directly at Jiang Chen. A girl nearby noticed, "No, the guy isn't flying, he's just falling off the cliff." A legendary entrance to the frame. There was a powerful explosion. My uncle immediately made a strategic decision. Since the guy had turned into a chop, it was urgent to save himself and his niece, and the body of the hero could be found later and a monument to him from the nearest rocks. But when the smoke cleared, what everyone saw was Jiang Chen standing in place slightly crooked. His legs were just cramped from his successful leap of faith. Uncle almost choked on air. "You're alive. Where's the demon wolf? Are you all right?" Jiang Chen calmly brushed it off. "I'm fine." And the wolf, well, he's resting now from the looks of it, he's in heaven. Stroking the wolf's head, he said innocently, "Listen, the king of all beasts dwells here somewhere. I've forgotten the location. Will you take me there?" And he threatened, "If you don't deliver, I'll send you back to catch up with your ancestors." The wolf instantly jumped up and wagged its tail like it had won a million. A moment later, the wolf was already circling around, offering to saddle himself. Jiang Chen sat down and waving goodbye to the random witnesses of this game declared, "I have a lot to do here. Goodbye, everyone," and set out on his journey to meet the king of beasts. Qingyu, observing this magic, asked her uncle, "Who is he anyway?" Uncle sighed heavily, "A true master. I hope fate will bring him and me together again." In the meantime, our hero rode his wolf through the dense forest to the next adventure. The nature around him was beautiful. Sun rays glided on. The rocks birds sang on the branches, and somewhere in the grass lay a whole pack of killed wolves. The mood, as they say, was festive. Jiang Chen reached the center of the pack. The head white wolf, none other than the alpha, suddenly spoke in a human voice. He was informed that a human had come with a request. The birds in the treetops chirped with joy. The king of beasts was in a good mood today. Apparently, the day had not yet come when he would tear heads off for slanting his gaze. One brown bird quietly snickered. I hope this person won't be as much of an idiot as the fifth-ranked one who tried to steal the heavenly grass. Then his skull was smeared across the field. The young man bowed politely and greeted the king of all beasts, Pi-Ace, a legendary monster of the fifth rank, born to command all animals. The king liked this kind of respect, so he graciously allowed it. Tell me why you've come. And Jiang Chen, shining with all his teeth like a job interview, said, well, since you have the strength of a tiger, it means you have the instincts to match. Will you help me catch one fish? There was a dead silence. Wolves, birds, even grasshoppers were silent. The king of beasts blinked. What did you just say, little man? Yes. He heard right. They came to him for fish. Fish, Carl. The wolf roared with rage, the whole forest shuddering. He was already starting to remember how many times he had been brought blunt requests, and this was the limit. The birds in the trees decided not to wait for the continuation. They flew away saving their feathers. The Beast King rose into the air reporting with a roar, good. Since I've been silent, you've decided it's okay to pester me every day with your idiotic requests. Now I'll pack you up and send you back. And it looks like this time the conversation is going to end very sadly indeed. But Jiang Chen stood absolutely calm as if he was facing a kitten on a leash rather than an enraged rank 5 beast. The Beast King, swelling with rage, declared, let everyone know how I, the king of the Northern Range, got such a reputation. The young man inquired lazily, can you even do that? The response didn't have to wait long. The beast attacked, but Jiang Chen dodged it as if it was just a walk in the park. In the next second, without even changing his expression, he punched the wolf straight into its body. And he didn't just hit him, he knocked out a huge fang. The king of beasts froze in shock. You sneaky man. You've been hiding your power all this time. But since things weren't going according to plan, the beast, infuriated beyond belief, growled. Okay. Prepare to take all my wrath. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen calmly twirled the dislodged fang in his hands and smirked and remarked, just as I thought. Your diet wasn't the best. The roots of your teeth are rotten through and through. He added condescendingly. I knocked out your fang, so it's easier now, isn't it? And the funny thing is that the wolf looked at the knocked out tooth and thought, and indeed the pain was gone. Nevertheless, he did not relax. The beast could feel it. That strike was clearly beyond rank 4 in terms of strength. Has he come to kill me? A disturbing thought flashed through his mind. Standing up in the most threatening pose, the king of beasts growled, speak plainly. What do you want? If you want to fight, fight fair. You've had enough of your sneaky tricks. Jiang Chen shrugged his shoulders. I told you. I just need help catching the gold scale king. And looking the wolf straight in the eyes, he added, you didn't believe it yourself, so I knocked out your rotten tooth. Now we're even. It's only fair that you help me, isn't it? It seemed that common sense had reached the king's brain after all. The wolf grudgingly mumbled, all right. I'll go with you, and turning around said, the golden-cheeked king dwells in Lake Chuinyuan. I know a shortcut. The young man followed him without much hesitation, but there was a suspicious spark in the beast's eyes. Oh, well. They reached a small grove. The wolf waved his tail. Let's go through it. Just past it will be the back of the lake. They were walking, but Jiang Chen squinted his eyes. Strange. I don't remember any path here. All right. Let's go now that we've started. And then the circus began. Glowing green roots emerged from the ground and immediately began to wrap around the young man. He, not thinking long enough, began to cut them time after time, but to no avail. The roots grew again and again like mold on a forgotten sandwich, ossicordial. King of Beasts stood aside at this time and condescendingly explained, don't waste your strength. This is an ancient spell. It may have only residual effects, but even those are enough to finish you off. And grinning, he added, either tell the truth or rot here and be eaten by insects. But Jiang Chen was unperturbed as usual. It's not worth it to negotiate with you, he said to himself. And looking into the void, he turned to Fufu. I have a twink pumped to the max, don't I? Master Rune, I can handle it. Right? At that moment, as scheduled, the little elf girl, Fufu, appeared. She clapped her hands and declared, dummy brother. Just now you realize to remember about me. All right. I can switch your class, but all your stamina and stats will go to 0, and you won't be able to use your weapons. That's kind of an upgrade, isn't it? Jiang Chen looked at her longingly as if he had just been informed of a tax increase. Why are there so many restrictions? Fufu cheerfully explained. It's simple, silly brother. You have to develop all directions, not sit in the same pose all your life. There was nothing to do. The young man confirmed the change of class. While he was rebooting, the roots were still trying to make a kebab out of him, but our hero didn't lose his cool. He explained aloud, and at the same time for us, the audience, that rune spells are divided into two categories, attack and defense. They can weaken the enemy, strengthen allies, create illusions, change the rules of combat, in general, a set for a fun life. But every spell has a core, a point of energy concentration. Jiang Chen had already started to form his spell, but the beast, meanwhile, was philosophizing in the corner. If you destroy the core, the spell will disappear. And somewhere in the bushes someone was whispering, "That guy, what else is he up to?" In the meantime, our hero struck a powerful blow at the unfortunate roots, blow after blow chopping them down with such fury as if they were a line at the tax office. And, of course, he adopted a heroic JoJo-style fighting pose, and then in the distance, he saw a black silhouette. "There you are. It's time for you to taste my hospitality," Jiang Chen said cheerfully. When the fog began to clear, they could see who was in front of them, a girl with wool four-cut ears and a small horn on her head. She struggled to open her eyes and groaned. "My head is cracking, but thanks for saving me anyway. Otherwise, I would have been imprint for a couple 100 years. The Beast King, looking at all of this, was in complete prostration. How is this even possible?" The young man lazily turned to the beast and asked, "Hey, dog. Is this your enemy or what?" And then the beast, full of emotion, rushed toward the girl with a scream. "Mommy." The next second, the girl calmly slapped him on the head. "Why are you yelling like you're at a funeral? I'm not dead yet." The poor beast was sobbing his heart out. "Mama, I thought I'd never see you again." And Jiang Chen stood there and dumbly flapped his eyes. What, Mom?" The girl smiling introduced herself. "Hero, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Garuda, and this jerk next to me is my son." Young man was shocked. Garuda? One of the 4 legendary divine creatures of Fantas world. But Garuda only snorted. "What sacred creature? I've been in print for hundreds of years, and I've forgotten what fame is. I thought everyone had forgotten about me." She looked at Jiang Chen and added with all sincerity, "If it wasn't for you, hero, I would have died of old age." And then the young man finally understood why there were only vague rumors about Garuda in the game. He realized why there were only vague rumors about Garuda in the game. He, still in mild shock, asked, "You're so strong. How could you have been sealed up in the first place?" Garuda, shrugging her shoulders, replied, "I just got old, bored. My strength was gone and then I ran into the wrong people. But never mind. It doesn't matter." And then looking at him with a challenging look, she asked, "And you, hero, why did you come here in the first place?" At this moment, the King of Beasts visibly shrank and moved aside as if hoping that no one would notice him. It was obvious that he was embarrassed. The King of Beasts was about to quietly leave this strange place, but it was not to be. The Garuda folded her arms across her chest and lazily threw her hands together. "Who let you move? We are not done yet." Meanwhile, the King of Beasts was screaming hysterically, Mama, mercy." But the Garuda was merciless, knocking him out with a couple of precise punches right on the spot. She sighed heavily as she looked at the animal lying there. "I've raised it on my own head." She then turned to Jiang Chen and completely serious added, "If you want, I'll pull out all his bones and make soup for him." The young man hurriedly waved his hands. "Don't. I still need him to help me with the fish." In the end, the 3 went to Chunyuan Lake. There, the King of Beasts finally proved his prowess by catching the golden scaly king. The Garuda watching this circus grinned and said, "Hero, if you want more fish, tell me. This fool will catch every drop of Chunyuan for you." The King of Beasts, of course, immediately jumped into the conversation. "I'm actually the world champion in fishing," and Jiang Chen only smiled awkwardly as he looked at the fish he had caught. "Great. It gets better." The young man opened the fish and found a strange piece inside. By the law of luck, it had to be eaten raw. Well, what can you do? The hero swallowed it without question and instantly began to choke. Garuda, watching the fun, asked, "Is there anything else you need?" The young man, struggling to catch his breath, waved it away. "That's it. Consider us even. I must go on." In parting, Garuda shouted cheerfully, "See you again, hero. Call me if you need anything." Leaving the mother and her child to deal with each other, Jiang Chen left. Meanwhile, the King of Beasts looked back at the departing figure and asked Garuda, "Mom, why are you being so polite to this man? If I had fought with my full strength, there's no telling who would have won, and you are in your peak." But Garuda, with a slight chuckle, interrupted him. "Son, are you blind? He is an ordinary man of the first rank." The King of the Beasts freaked out. "The first one? Doesn't he even hide his strength?" Garuda nodded. "Yes. And if he's so scary at the first rank, imagine what he'll be like next." She added thoughtfully, "That's why I bet on him. Our kind, our fallen wings will rise to the heavens again," and that's where the philosophy was interrupted. The scene changed. We are now transported to a bustling city. The merchant, with a smug smile, turned to Jiang Chen. "Sir, you have ordered crystals worth 7,200 somi. What will you pay with? Somi or gold?" The young man looked at the merchandise and thought in horror, this amount of crystals is worth as much as a small island. The merchant, catching the confusion, immediately started making waves. If you don't have money, get out of here. You're wasting your time, you lazy bastard. John Chen gritted his teeth grimly. Why is he yelling? I should have brought some money with me. But there was no time to be discouraged. He grabbed Fufu's hand and exhaled sharply. Okay, I've eaten the liver of the golden scaly king. Now we need 3 sparkling crystals, 3 transparent crystals and 3 sacred crystals, he exclaimed in despair. Where the hell am I going to get that kind of money? Fufu nonchalantly replied, these are the system requirements. It's useless to complain. And finally added, and yes, stop carrying me around like a toy. The young man scratched the back of his head. The sacred crystal is rare, but the other 2 can be bought with money. He began to look around for an escape and finally spotted a small shop where a girl sat behind the counter, and that's where his next adventure would begin. A young man noticed a girl who was fortune-telling on the past, predicting the future 3 times a day only for a select few. What an exclusive service. Soon a man approached her. He politely asked Mrs. Twitter to read his hand, but the girl immediately cut him off. You are not the chosen one. The man is not confused. Wait, don't jump to conclusions. Here, a modest gift as a token of respect. But Jweta stood like a block of ice. Suddenly, she had a sudden change of heart. Oh, my mistake. You are the chosen one after all. So tell me, what do you want to know? Our young man was watching all this on the sidelines, and in his mind, he had a brilliant idea. Shouldn't he try it too? While life in the city went on as usual, he set up a makeshift shop. Come in. Fortune-telling without cheating. It's all honest. And, of course, such activity was noticed by Jweta herself. She squinted at me and asked, listen. What? Are you doing running a fair here? Are you stealing customers? The young man smiled. No. You only tell the chosen ones, but I tell everyone. Jweta snorted. That's how rules are broken, and I like rules. She ran her finger over his face and suggested, let's have a contest. The fortune-teller's pride is at stake. The loser gets out of here. How's that for a deal? The young man scratched the back of his head. A fortune-teller's pride. I didn't have any, but money was sorely lacking, so he agreed. Dwighter smiled contentedly, and then Fufu solemnly announced, the first competition of the best fortune-tellers of Vental Street is now open. First question, what will the next passerby be wearing? Dwighter said confidently, purple. Jian Chen shrugged his shoulders, yellow, and then a girl appeared on the horizon wearing purple and yellow clothes. Fufu giggled. Both of them guessed. Right. Jweta fiddled a little. Okay. Just hurried. Next question is on me. Second question, what hairstyle will the next passerby have? Jweta stated short, and Jian Chen suggested with a smirk. Bald Fufu swiftly flew up to a passerby and ripped off his wig. And, yes, they were both partially right again. It was time for the third and decisive question. What will the weather be like through the evening? Jweta, all pathos, clutched the magic ball in her hands and solemnly declared, cloudless sky. John Chen looked up at the sky and chuckled. I say it's going to pour like a bucket. The bets have been placed and soon it will all be decided. The girl didn't understand. Why would it suddenly start raining? And as soon as she said it, bang, thunder rumbled. The heavens opened up, and it rained so much that even mermaids would have swum up the mountain. Dwighter froze. That's it. I've lost. And John Chen, looking at the satisfied Fufu, suddenly remembered, I've got my astrologer twin to the max. And he immediately explained, unlike ordinary fortune tellers, astrologers are a hidden elite class. They don't just whisper incantations over orbs. They actually predict the future by the stars, and they can even influence the weather. So without Fufu, he would look, to say the least, pathetic in this argument. Dwighter, barely keeping her face, admitted defeat. If I've lost, I'm leaving. You won't see me on the street again. And almost leaving, she added, by the way, I'll leave all my magic tools here. John Chen, of course, rejoiced at the gift, but the joy lasted for exactly 3 seconds because the girl immediately added, for a modest 5,000 somi. The young man froze in a stupor. Is it for a fee? Jweta shrugged. Well, what did you think? Now I don't have a job or a shop. Besides, you'll definitely need these things. Jian Chen thought for a moment and offered 2,000. Surprisingly, the girl agreed without argument. And then, as if from a romance novel, she suddenly kissed him on the cheek. This is the winner's reward. Ah, master. Perhaps you'd like to get a loan with your apprentice and teach her the art of divination. John Chen only snorted. Yeah, sure. Only the tuition is for a fee. That was the end of their negotiations. The girl waved cheerfully and left, wishing her good luck. The young man escorted her with a glance, figuring it out. She seemed suspicious, but okay. If I can save up for crystals quickly with this cart, I don't care at all. The next day or maybe the same day. Who keeps track of time there anyway? Jian Chen sat outside his divination shop, sprawled out like a true professional. And then he was approached by a familiar type, the same man who had earlier tried to get Zuaida to make predictions. The man looked around the shop and ordered his men, surround this charlatan. Jian Chen raised his head lazily, yawned, and asked, "Hey, are you sure you're at the right place? Anyway, Zuaida showed up here a week ago. She showed her skills and, of course, Mr. Lopo was immediately interested, like a cat on the scent of fish. He even gave her an advance on his behalf, a decent sum, enough for new clothes, all in the hope that she'd solve one. Let's just say a subtle problem," the man explained. Zuaida took the advance payment, smiled, and said, "It's too complicated. I can't do it without a master." A typical scheme. She took the money, put her slippers in her hands, and bye-bye. Glancing at Jian Chen, the man fiddled and added, "And now she's gone." Meanwhile, Mr. Lopo's condition, well, let's just say that Mr. Lopo's condition hasn't improved. What are we going to do? Jian Chen lazily raised his hand and retorted, "Look for her master yourself. Why are you bothering with me?" But then it hit him, that very kiss, the very words, master. The guy realized that he had been so skillfully scammed that he could write a textbook. The man, meanwhile, added fuel to the fire. "You have two options, either return the money or treat Lopo like a medical god." Jian Chen looked at Fufu and only smirked. "What are the other two options? There isn't even one." Fufu, sensing something wrong, shot forward like a rocket, every man for himself, when it was obvious without further ado. Jian Chen didn't understand. "Hey, why are you starting earlier?" But it was too late. The man shouted to his men, "Grab them." Everyone immediately rushed towards Jian Chen, but the guy dodged as if he was taking a parkour exam. "Even though I'm an astrologer by status, I can't be stopped by these clowns," he thought smugly. And then fate, as usual, decided, hold the footstool. His leg was sprained. His body felt like cotton. He was literally standing on paper legs. He turns around and bang. He crushes who was running ahead. Both of them collapsed like sacks of potatoes. Fufu sighed sarcastically. "That's unfortunate, stupid brother." And the stalker grinning said, "Well, where are you going to go now?" And then suddenly yells at the entire hall, "Master." Jian Chen stood there shocked. "What?" She blinked her innocent eyes and asked what he was even doing here. The uncle that Jian Chen had accidentally rescued recently came over to them. The man proudly introduced himself as Lin Huai, the head of the Chuyan Village Trade Guild. Just like in a bad fantasy, if you saved someone, you should prepare for unexpected encounters. Lin Huai turned to the captain who was chasing them, saying that if it wasn't for Jian Chen, their entire gang would have perished in the north. Qin Yu, who was standing next to him, blushed embarrassedly. Jian Chen chuckled to himself. "That's right. Those are the two I accidentally pulled out back then." Then he already added out loud, "No formalities. I am Jian Chen." Lin Hua, still, keeping his face, tried to settle the conflict and told Captain Chigai that it was all a trivial misunderstanding, but the man was clearly a fan of principles. "Misunderstanding or not, it's all the same. This guy is coming with me. I have to report to Mr. Lopo." Lin Hua looked at the captain the way one would look at a cockroach in soup. As if on cue, three guys appeared behind the captain. One looked like he had eaten a plate of nails for breakfast in the morning. Kitty squinted his eyes and asked Headlin, "Are you seriously going to ruin our relationship today for the sake of some obscure stranger?" To which the guild leader replied, with icy politeness, "Dear Mr. Jian Chen is an honored guest of our guild." Then he added, just to be sure, "Captain Chigai, do you want to declare war on behalf of the Lopu family?" And then Seb's internal blue screen of death clearly kicked in. He had no idea what to do. "So what are your suggestions?" he squeezed out, clearly hoping to have it all solved for him. Without blinking an eye, Uncle Lin suggested a compromise. Let Jian Chen show that he was worth anything as a fortune teller. He turned to the guy and respectfully asked, "Mr. Jian, could you go to Lopu and try to help him?" Of course, Lin emphasized it was a voluntary matter, but it was also a paid matter. And where money smells, Jian Chen, as they say, is already off to a low start. Soon, the whole procession arrived at Lopu Castle. Kaij proudly brought Jian Chen as if he had brought a bag of gold. Lopu, without even getting up from his throne, waved his hand. "Come over." But the strangeness did not end. There, Kigai declared that the young man must swear, silently, not a word to anyone about what he would see next. Jian Chen blinked incomprehensibly. What kind of spy passion secrets are these? And then Kigi, lowering his voice, broke the tragic news. "Our master is pregnant." There was a moment of silence. The shock was so powerful that Jian Chen seriously began to suspect that this was some kind of prank. "What?" Red on his face. But, no, Lopu was completely serious. He explained that this was all the result of an evil spirit taking over the castle. Jian Chen almost slapped his forehead. Ah, of course. Classic of the genre. Possession, pregnancy, the whole shebang. Meanwhile, his little son ran up to Lopu and tearfully asked if his father would be all right. Lopu patted him on the head and assured him that everything would be alright, but he could hardly hold back his tears as he looked at his son. Jian Chen, who was standing next to him, was already starting to boil over. How much more of this snot could he take? He abruptly cut the drama short. Stop being melodramatic. Where is that thing that did this? Jian Chen and Captain Shiggy went to the basement of the castle. On the way, Shiggy proudly announced that they had specially summoned Grandmaster BA from a neighboring country to exorcise the evil. So they said, all the young man had to do was to help a little and they would get money for it anyway. And what's the nicest thing? In advance, there was an atmosphere in the basement. A group of local experts were trying to exorcise the devil. They had managed to build a fire in a room that was already unbreathable. Jian Chen, watching this circus of fire, only chuckled. Yeah, burn all the oxygen and then wonder why you were carried forward. Without a second thought, he walked over and opened the window so that he wouldn't suffocate early. Master BA almost had a heart attack at this moment watching Jian Chen brazenly violate their sacred ritual. Master BA looked at Jian Chen and didn't understand why he was hanging around. Who was going to be responsible for the thwarted exile? Chigai quickly intervened, saying that it was fine. He was an assistant. He would help. Well, at least interfere officially. The bald guy from Master Bo's team grinned and said, with a master like us, you don't need any help. Just stay back and keep a low profile. Jian Chen only shrugged his shoulders. You can stand on your ears as long as you get paid later. Master BA, meanwhile, started the show by summoning a huge yellow sword that shone so brightly that it made his eyes hurt. The bald man was speechless as he saw a holy crucifix in front of him. How could such a spell even obey their master? Master BA, full of pathos, struck the demon with that sword demanding that he go back to his hellish commune. The demon was yelling like he owed him an advance payment and was being kicked in the ass. BA grinned smugly. With such power, it's definitely over, but it was not to be. Right in front of him, a demon girl. A demon girl, disgruntled beyond belief. She looked at him as if he had ruined her manicure and now had to answer for it. Master BA was shocked. Why the hell is she still alive? But after collecting himself, he decided, I'll add some more swords so she'll understand. But the demoness gracefully dodged and went on the offensive. BA dreamed of an epic banishment, but got kicked in the butt and thrown into a wall. Beautiful, clear, well-deserved. Meanwhile, Jian Chen stood back, watching all this commotion and lazily tossed to the bald guy. Tell your master to stop or he'll really burn alive here. The bald man was puzzled. Who are you to give out advice? Jian Chen calmly explained, Master BA lacked spiritual power. In order to hold the holy cross, he stupidly burns his soul. And right now, the demon and master's strengths are almost equal. The longer he drags it out, the faster he'll end up killing himself. The bald man stared at him with square eyes. What did you just say again? He grabbed Jian Chen by the collar and tried to act tough, to which Jian Chen, looking coldly into his eyes, muttered, let go quickly. Baldy immediately deflated and let go, but he muttered to himself, my master has been exorcising spirits for decades. How could he even lose? The demoness slammed Master BA into the wall with a vicious kick. The bald man panicked and rushed to his teacher. The demoness only smirked, towering over the rescue team, surrounded by an ominous gloom. Captain Kaij looked around nervously, clearly mentally drafting a will. What to do now? I wanna live. Jian Chen, while everyone was panicking, calmly folded his fingers into a special shape. A golden glow shone out from his hands. It seemed like the show would now begin for real. Master BA shouted at Jian Chen in a panic saying, don't mess around. His circle was still protecting him and he could escape in time. But when the circle collapsed, it would be too late. Jian Chen disdainfully looked at Master BA as if he was a student who had cheated on his homework and was proud of it and coldly threw it down. Just because you can't doesn't mean I can't. The your. Next second, 4 golden weapons flashed around him as bright as the sun at its zenith. Master BA almost dropped his jaw as 4 holy crosses shone in front of him. Weapons whistled toward the demoness. The demoness was expecting an easy victory, but this was a turnaround. The golden blades began to burn through her. She howled in pain. Why? A desperate cry shook the walls. The golden crucifix flashed, even brighter, and scattered everyone to the corners. Jian Chen standing up and shaking off the dust grudgingly muttered, when you yell, cover your mouth. Now I'm covered in drool. Nice. Thank you. The demoness rubbing his shoulder tried to save face. She called him a fool and told him to stop showing off, but he had almost no strength left so her chance had come. She rushed towards Chen Chen already anticipating the triumph, but she suddenly froze abruptly. Something was clearly not going according to her plan. The young man asked lazily, are you sure my strength is at an end? And in front of everyone, he summoned 8 more, 12. No. 16 more golden weapons. The demoness gaze turned visibly grey. The realization of defeat came over her like a cold shower. She sat doomedly on the floor and whimpered. It's not fair. Jianchen chuckled as he looked at her pitiful appearance. Honestly speaking, I liked your bold and pranky version better, but he wasn't going to admire the show. He ordered sternly, come on. Spit it out. Why did you put that black soul in Lop in the first place? The demoness admitted with slumped shoulders that she just wanted to help. Jianchen raised an eyebrow skeptically. Help? Come on. Tell me more. And she began to explain. A couple of days ago, the spirit of a boy who had died a violent death had wandered in here. His last wish was to stay near his father, Lopu. The problem is that weak souls don't last long. To save him, she made a soul embryo out of a spirit and put it into Lopa. She said that when the spiritual energy accumulates, the boy will be reborn as a full-fledged soul. Jianchen grimly clenched his fists. What other rudiment? It's a black soul. Do you realize that you could have just endangered Lopa? The demoness immediately babbled in apology. She didn't know it was so dangerous. She did everything from the bottom of her heart and in general, did not touch anyone, did not kill anyone. Looking at the girl, Jianchen realized there really wasn't any human energy from her and she didn't seem to be lying. So he decided this lady was allowed to live for now. He went to check Lopu's condition. What if there were surprises there too? They were already met at the entrance by Captain Sagari as if nothing had happened. He inquired, Master Jian, have you finished already? Jianchen squinted his eyes and asked, when did you manage to show up here? All right. Don't worry. Everything is under control. But the captain's gaze was immediately drawn back to the demoness. And clearly, just in case, he blurted out, is this lady with you? Come on up. There may be evil spirits downstairs. The demoness crossed her arms over her chest and looked at him like the genius of the year. Wow. Really? I guess I didn't know that myself. Sedge went pale and the demoness only chuckled, enjoying the moment. Anyway, back to Lopu's castle. Lopu moved to tears, hugged his little son, Toby, and whispered, I missed you so much. Jianchen, keeping a sober mind, explained to him, but if you keep feeding it with your spiritual energy, you'll die. And who knows what this thing will even hatch into. Therefore, without too much sentimentality, he put Lopu out of his misery. The spirit and truth spell disappeared from his body. Lopu, still in disbelief, turned to Jianchen and asked, Toby didn't just get attached to me for nothing, right? Maybe he had something to say. Could you please find out? But the young man holding the bag of gold he had earned answered without a drop of doubt. The fee has already been paid. So look for someone else. I have more important things to do. As he was about to go out, Lopu's cries sounded behind him. My poor Toby. But Mrs. Namel said he would be the bearer of the Holy Crystal. At the words Holy Crystal, Jianchen abruptly froze. Aha. Now this was really getting interesting. The action takes place in a busy shopping plaza. Fufu, as always, is full of all sorts of goodies and, as the law of the genre dictates, has not gained a gram of weight. Where's the justice? Meanwhile, Ken Yu ran up to Jianchen and shyly asked, don't you want to stay here longer? After all, we still haven't had time to give you a proper meal. Jianchen politely but firmly refused. No need. Lopu has already told me where to find the Holy Crystal, so we have to hurry. After a while, Senyu gave him a small gift. The beautiful pouch contained 2,700 somi worth of sparkling, almost transparent stones. She also added 3,000 gold on top from herself and her uncle. A 5 out of 5 level of niceness. Jianchen was, of course, touched, but he still didn't understand. How 2,700 somi? If that brazen merchant wanted to charge 7,200 for this junk, who's cheating who here, I wonder? Can you embarrassingly explained? Lust for profit is common, but don't worry about it. If you need anything, just ask. I promise I won't let you spend a single extra somi. As they say, you have your own accountant, and life is easier. Soon, Uncle Lin came over. Proud as if his niece was the new Minister of Finance, he praised Chenyu. She calculates the road, cost, and production in one glance. Pure talent. This shopping street should have been handed over to her a long time ago. The young man was thinking at this moment. The ability to save money on purchases. That's gold in human form. In his mind, he had already put Chen Yi on the list of very useful people. Moving closer, Chen Yu, slightly embarrassed, wished him come back alive. Jian Chen was even slightly confused under her gaze, but he quickly gathered himself and with a slight smile promised, I will. We'll meet again. Grabbing Fufu by the scruff of the neck, he moved forward while Fufu loudly resented, Hey, I haven't finished my food yet. Well, someone's priorities are very clear. Uncle Lin watching this scene couldn't help but ask Chinyu, why didn't you stop him if you like him? He knew. The girl was not only intelligent, but also with a great soul. But Chen Yu quietly replied, Brother Jian is not the kind of person who can sit in one place for a long time. She had already decided everything for herself. She will work, develop their business, not just a street, but an entire mainland by blood. If she wants to be by Jian Chen's side, she must be worthy of his level. And here's where I even want to insert my own opinion. Hey, Jian Chen. You just missed out on not a girl. You missed out on the perfect investment for the future. Night had fallen. Jian Chen decided to stay here. It was still a long way to the next town. He lazily glanced at Fufu and asked, "Are you even going to bathe?" But Fufu, who had gorged herself like a buffet queen, only turned away and mumbled something inaudible. Wash? No, thanks. I'd rather snuggle up with a pillow. By the way, the young man wondered why it was so cold in here. He went to the door, opened it, and voila. In front of him stood the very same demoness, dressed so provocatively that the local morality would simply go out the window. Surprised to the point of falsity, she knelt down and offered a service, free. The promotion of the day. Jian Chen closed the door right in front of her nose without emotion and sighed heavily. How can you believe in normal people after this? Standing in the room, he heard the demoness on the other side of the door continue to broadcast. If the gentleman would like a bath, I can arrange it. The young man threw her out into the hallway again at the same second. Poor Vivint was almost crying. She was getting ready. She'd picked out her outfits and now she'd been heartlessly rejected. She only wanted him to praise her efforts at least for the sake of decency. At that moment, some guy jumped up from behind and asked, "If you don't need a maid, can I have her?" Vivint turned to him with an intimidating look and an icy smile. "It would be my pleasure." The guy turned as pale as a sheet and ran down the hallway with all his legs screaming frantically, "Demon!" A crowd came to the shouting. Everyone began to chatter. Where is the demon? Who's seen a demon? The demons in Panic Travel Agency would obviously appreciate the excitement. At this moment, the door swung open and Jian Chen waved impatiently. "Quickly enter the room." The demoness entering snorted resentfully. "Rude, but I kind of like it." When they were alone, Jian Chen got straight to the point. "And why are you picking on me?" Meanwhile, Fufu, supposedly asleep, opened one eye and began to quietly watch the events unfold. Viving, portraying the drama of the century, began to tell her tragic story. Her name was Viving. She was an innocent girl who fell into the clutches of scoundrels. In order to preserve her honor, she chose death. Jian Chen yawned. "Get to the point," he demanded without too much sentimentality. Finally, Viving gets to the point. She wants her body back. She's tired of being a spirit, so she asked the master for help. The young man grinned. "What's that got to do with me?" The girl bowing slightly clarified with a naive smile. "If the Lord would like to help, I'm all yours." Jian Chen, carefully stepping back, explained. "To restore your body, you need a fortune teller of at least rank 5. Even with my secret techniques, that's only rank 4. And right now, as you can see, I have the first rank." Vivint's eyes rounded. First rank. It sounded like a revelation to her. After all, if he could beat her so easily with just the first rank, then who was he at the 4th rank? Without long thinking, she sat down before him on her knees and exclaimed, "I have faith in Master. You will definitely rise to the 4th rank. In the meantime, I'm willing to give you my soul right now." What can I say? Somewhere in the corner, the labor relations codes were quietly crying. Jian Chen calmly clarified as if he was explaining something trivial. The soul transfer meant that Viving's life and death were now entirely up to him. No options. No return. But Viving was stubborn. If she didn't even have the guts for that, why would he even bother with her? It's ironclad logic. And without further ado, her soul was carefully transferred into Jian Chen's hands. The young man sighed heavily, probably already sensing what he was in for, and reluctantly agreed that when he reached the 4th rank, he would help her get her body back. But, of course, he wasn't going to do anything for nothing. In return, Viving had to do one thing for him. Viving didn't even bother to specify what the request was and instantly began to remove her clothes. Jian Chen's reaction was instantaneous. Sincere bewilderment. What was going on? The girl full of drama explained. She had been chaste in her lifetime, but now she wanted to give him a special experience. Jian Chen only rolled his eyes tiredly. No. Seriously. He actually meant the usual request to stay and look after the house without any bonuses. Besides, he reminded himself that time was running out. It had been a few days since he'd left, and Shen might as well start moving. And now the girl would live under a new name, Xiaowei, discipline, disguise, everything as it should be. Xiaowei nodded and accepted the new name without question. There wasn't much to choose from anyway. At dawn, Jian Chen briefly announced that today they were going to the northern city to the Jian family's house. In between, he asked Xiaowei to try not to scare anyone there. The mission was not an easy one. Standing to the side, Xiaowei was still in a state of culture shock. How could it be that the night had passed and no one had used her services? Apparently, she had very strange ideas about her new job. Jian Chen only lazily reminded her that he was not interested in such pleasures of life. Xiaowei's seduction plan had failed, but Xiaowei decided to act in a martial way and threw him on the bed. The only problem was that Fufu was already snoozing peacefully on the bed. There was a menacing growl that made even the walls shake. Fufu opened one eye and growled ominously. Whoever disturbs Fufu in her sleep, you're dead. And so the night of romance officially ended. With a bang, the morning came. Jian Chen finally reached the right place. He took out the map, looked at it, and fell into a slight stupor. These scribbles had clearly been drawn by someone with a foot or a nose. Either way, it was impossible to understand anything. When he looked around, he noticed a strange couple, a blonde man and a beautiful girl. The blonde man, without wasting time, gave out his entire profile. Ina, 33, lives in a northeastern estate, doesn't smoke, drinks when he's in the mood, unmarried. In short, Tinder in real life. Now he was expecting Miss Tina to say something too. At this time, Jian Chen was already thinking of asking them for directions, but the plans collapsed the moment Fufu came around, shamelessly demanding sweets. And, of course, everyone forgot about the holy crystal. Priorities, as they say, are at a premium. Jian Chen explained that they had to find the holy crystal first and everything else would have to wait. But Fufu flatly refused to wait. She demanded food, and she demanded it immediately. The logic is simple. A growing body is more important than some crystals. Meanwhile, Miss Tina admitted with a sweet smile that she loved to sing and watch theater productions. She asked Varna politely about his hobbies. He froze, thought for a moment, and then, of course, mentally mouthed, "What hobbies are there? I'm just a fan of these beautiful hands. Just the thought that they could be mine, and I'm already squealing with delight." Jian Chen, observing this suspicious type, quickly thought to himself, "No way. Too murky a guy. I'd better ask someone else for help." But the strangeness didn't end there. Werner suddenly sensed an atmosphere of pressure. It looked like there was something very, very interesting or something very unpleasant or more likely both. And, you know, this guy is really weird, and we'll find out in the next installment. Believe me, even I was surprised by that. Well, if you really wanna see part 2, write in the comments the secret would gotcha. That way, I'll know that you've watched to the end and you want part 2. And if we get 1000 likes, then part 2 will be released on the same day. See you later, and bye-bye.